You've been told the problem is what you eat. You've been told it's how hard you train. You've been told it's your metabolism, your age, your genetics. And you believed it, because you tried everything, and that stubborn visceral fat still hasn't moved. But here's the truth. No one in the mainstream wellness world wants to say out loud. The problem isn't your effort. It never was. Your body has been receiving a chemical signal, multiple times a day, instructing your fat cells to lock down and refuse to release stored energy. And until you silence that signal, nothing else you do will matter. Japan has one of the lowest obesity rates in the developed world, and they eat white rice every single day. They don't count macros. They don't do intermittent fasting protocols. They don't punish themselves in the gym. What they do, what Japanese health researchers identified decades before Western science caught up, is manage the hormonal environment that decides whether your body burns fat or stores it. That environment is controlled by one hormone above all others. And right now, in your body, that hormone is firing too often, too hard, and too long. In this video, you're going to learn exactly why that's happening, and the 5-step protocol that systematically eliminates every trigger, keeping your visceral fat locked in storage mode. By the end, you'll have a complete, actionable plan you can start tomorrow morning. No extreme diet, no brutal training program, just precision, applied to the right target, for the first time. The strangest part. Once you understand the real mechanism, you'll wonder why no one ever explained it to you this way before. You've been doing everything right. You've cut the food, logged the miles, pushed through the soreness, and yet that visceral fat isn't moving. That's not a motivation problem. That's not a discipline problem. Something else is happening inside your body, something you can't see, feel, or fix with another workout. Here's what no one tells you. Your fat cells aren't just sitting there waiting to be burned. They're receiving signals, chemical signals. And when those signals say, hold tight, danger incoming, your body locks down every single fat cell in your abdomen, and no amount of effort can override. And until you know what's triggering it, every strategy you try is just noise. What you're about to learn changes everything. The real enemy isn't fat. It's the signal telling your body to keep it. That signal has a name. Reactive cortisol spiking, a metabolic sabotage pattern that Japanese researchers identified and called Korutaizoru no Kyujo, which translates to cortisol surge disorder. While Western science was obsessed with calories in and calories out, Japanese researchers were watching something far more consequential. The hormonal environment that decides whether your body burns fat or buries it deeper. Here's what that means for you. Every time cortisol spikes, and it's spiking more than you realize, your visceral fat cells enter what scientists call a permanent emergency storage state. They stop releasing energy. They start hoarding it. And the cruel part? That state doesn't reset the moment the stress passes. It lingers. It compounds. It builds a wall around the fat you're trying to lose. Diet can't touch it. Exercise can't reach it. Not while that hormonal alarm keeps firing. The problem isn't your body failing you. It's your body doing exactly what it was designed to do. Step 1. The receptor lock. The cortisol spike visceral fat cascade. Here's the mechanism you need to understand. Your abdominal fat isn't like the fat on your arms or legs. It's loaded, densely, disproportionately loaded, with glucocorticoid receptors. Think of those receptors as direct phone lines, and every time cortisol spikes, it calls every single one of them at once, delivering one clear chemical instruction: expand, hold, do not release. That's not a metaphor. That's the biochemistry. The moment cortisol floods your system, those receptors activate, your visceral fat cells swell with stored energy, and the enzymatic pathways that would normally trigger fat breakdown get shut down completely. Your body isn't broken. It's following orders written in cortisol, delivered straight to the fat you're trying to lose. So here's what that means practically. You can burn 600 calories in a session and eat at a deficit all week. But if your cortisol is spiking repeatedly throughout the day, your abdominal fat cells are in lockdown mode before, during, and after every single effort you make. The work isn't the problem. If you feel like your body is constantly stuck in alert mode, with poor sleep, fatigue, untimely hunger, and stubborn abdominal fat, I've prepared the complete cortisol reset bundle. Inside, you'll receive the main guide, the cortisol reset, plus 2 bonuses: low nighttime cortisol protocol and cortisol, insulin, and abdominal fat. The link is in the description. Step 2. The Ichiju Sansai architecture, the blood sugar stability method. Most people think cortisol only spikes when they're stressed or anxious. That's only half the story. Every time your blood sugar crashes between meals, and it's crashing more than you think, your adrenal glands fire an emergency cortisol response to pull glucose back up. No dramatic event required. No argument. No deadline. No bad news. Just a glycemic swing, invisible and automatic, triggering the exact same hormonal alarm that locks your visceral fat in storage mode. The Japanese figured out how to eliminate that trigger through meal structure, not meal restriction. The traditional framework called Ichiju Sansai, one soup and three sides, isn't just cultural habit. It's metabolic engineering. One warm broth base slows gastric emptying. Three small, varied sides, typically a protein, a fermented food, and a vegetable, create a slow, steady release of glucose that never spikes high enough to crash hard. No spike means no crash. No crash means no cortisol alarm between meals. The practical shift is immediate. Before your next meal, ask yourself, does this plate have something to slow absorption? A bowl of miso with salmon and steamed greens works. So does a lean protein, a fiber-rich vegetable, and a small portion of complex carbohydrate. The architecture matters more than the ingredients. And when your blood sugar stays steady all day, you've just silenced the most frequent cortisol trigger most people never even knew existed. Steady blood sugar, silent cortisol, open fat cells. Step 3. The accumulation break, the micro-stress threshold method. Here's something that will change the way you read your own day. It's not the big stressor that breaks you. It's not the crisis, the confrontation, or the impossible deadline. It's the 30 small ones that came before it. The notification, the traffic, the rushed lunch, the unread email, the forgotten task. Each one feels minor, manageable, not worth mentioning, but your adrenal glands don't grade them. Every single microstressor adds to the same cortisol pool, and at some point, that pool overflows into a single massive spike. Scientists call it the microstress accumulation threshold, and the worst part is that most people power through it, drink another coffee, and add more pressure to an already overloaded system. The Japanese approach this differently. The concept of intentional pause, deliberate empty space between activities, isn't rest for the sake of rest. It's a circuit breaker, a conscious interruption of the accumulation chain before it reaches the threshold. The application is simpler than you think. Twice a day, mid-morning and mid-afternoon, stop completely for 90 seconds. No phone, no task, no input. Sit, breathe slowly, and let your nervous system discharge. You'll know it's working when the tension in your shoulders drops and your next breath comes out longer than the one before. That 90-second gap doesn't slow your day down. It resets your cortisol trajectory and keeps your fat cells out of emergency storage mode for hours. Small pause, massive hormonal difference. Interrupt the chain. Reset the signal. Step 4. The theanine shield, the adrenal blunting mechanism. Your brain is wired to treat psychological triggers the same way it treats physical threats. A tense email, it fires the same adrenal cascade, releases the same cortisol surge, and sends the same lockdown signal straight to your visceral fat receptors. You can't always control the trigger, but you can change how your brain responds to it. And that's exactly where L-theanine enters the equation. L-theanine is an amino acid found in high concentrations in Japanese green tea, particularly in matcha and high-grade sencha. What makes it remarkable isn't what it does to your energy. It's what it does to your stress response. L-theanine crosses the blood-brain barrier and directly modulates the release of cortisol by dampening the adrenal response to psychological stressors. It increases alpha brainwave activity, the same calm, alert state you're in when you're completely focused but completely relaxed, sharp, present, unbothered. It doesn't sedate you. It doesn't blunt your cognition. It simply removes the hormonal overreaction to stress that your fat cells were waiting to receive. The practical instruction is precise. Prepare 1 cup of high-quality matcha or loose-leaf sencha, not bottled, not sweetened, not instant. Whisk or steep it properly and drink it between your first and second meal of the day, ideally during a moment of moderate mental load. When 1 cup delivers approximately 25 to 50 milligrams of L-theanine, enough to measurably blunt the cortisol response to whatever your morning throws at you. Your mind stays sharp, your adrenals stay quiet, and your visceral fat cells stay open for business, the burning kind. Calm the brain. Quiet the fat signal. Step 5. The clearance window, the post-spike cortisol metabolism method. Even when you do everything right, cortisol spikes will still happen. A sudden argument, an unexpected crisis, a moment of real pressure that no theanine and no intentional pause can fully prevent. That's not failure, that's biology. The question isn't whether cortisol will spike. The question is how long it stays elevated afterward. Because it's not the spike itself that keeps your visceral fat locked in storage mode. It's the prolonged tail, the hours of elevated cortisol, that follow when your body has no mechanism to clear it. Here's what most people do after a stress event. They sit with it. They replay it mentally, scroll their phone, eat something, or push straight back into work. Every one of those responses extends the cortisol tail and keeps your fat cells in emergency storage mode for hours longer than necessary. Japanese research on cortisol metabolism reveals a precise and underutilized solution. Slow, rhythmic movement, initiated within minutes of a stress event, dramatically accelerates cortisol clearance. Not intense exercise that raises cortisol further. Slow, steady, forward movement. 12 minutes is the threshold. That's all it takes to shift your body from cortisol accumulation to cortisol metabolism. The instruction is specific. Within 10 minutes of a stressful event, an argument, a difficult call, a spike of anxiety, get up and walk at a slow, steady pace for 12 minutes. No destination required. No performance needed. Keep your pace relaxed enough that your breathing stays nasal and your jaw stays unclenched. That's the signal your nervous system is looking for. At that pace, your muscles act as a cortisol sink, pulling the hormone out of circulation and metabolizing it before it can extend its grip on your fat cells. 12 minutes. That's the difference between a spike that passes and a spike that lingers for hours. Move it out. Don't let it linger. You now have a sequential mechanistically linked chain that eliminates every trigger forcing your body to hold visceral fat. Here it is, straight and fast. 1. Apply the receptor lock awareness. Understand that every uncontrolled cortisol spike is a direct chemical instruction to your abdominal fat cells to expand and refuse to release. The enemy is the signal, not the fat. 2. Build the Ichiju Sansai architecture into every meal. 1 slow base, 1 protein, 1 fiber-rich vegetable, 1 complex carbohydrate to eliminate the glycemic swings that trigger cortisol between meals. 3. Set 2 daily accumulation breaks, 90 seconds each, mid-morning and mid-afternoon. No input, no screen, no task, to interrupt the micro-stress chain before it overflows into a full hormonal surge. 4. Deploy the theanine shield, 1 cup of quality matcha or sencha between your first and second meal, to biochemically blunt your adrenal response to psychological triggers before they reach your fat receptors. 5. Activate the clearance window within 10 minutes of any stress event, 12 minutes of slow, rhythmic walking, to metabolize cortisol out of your system before its prolonged tail locks your visceral fat in storage mode for hours. None of them require a gym membership, an extreme diet, or a complete life overhaul. They require precision, consistency, and the understanding that your body was never broken. It was just responding to the wrong signals. Change the signals and everything changes. Your body already knows how to burn that fat. It's been waiting for permission. Now you've given it the protocol. Start tomorrow morning. 5 signals. 1 protocol.